Okay, so it is now 5:31. We have everyone who's going to be here today. Greg is out sick, so he won't be attending. So Jackie, if you want to call the meeting to order, and then we'll go through the first few agenda items, and then we'll go from there.
So I call the meeting to order. Greg Simmons is absent today. And we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, make sure your mic's on too.
Start over.
Yeah, if you could.
Okay, call the meeting to order. And we will have roll call.
Okay. Vice Chair Gardner.
Here.
Thank you. Committee Member Markham.
Here.
Committee Member Silva. And Committee Member St. John.
Here.
And as you said, Simmons is absent.
We will have a moment of silence and continue on with the Pledge of Allegiance next. Okay.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Is your mic on? Just checking.
We need to make a nomination for a new chair and vice chair. Do I hear any nominations? I'll make a nomination to nominate Jeff Markham. I'm sorry, Jeff Markham to the chair of the tree committee. Any discussion on that?
I'll make a second the motion. Void any discussion.
Okay, I'll make a roll call on that motion. Vice Chair Gardner.
Yes.
Committee Member Markham.
Present.
Committee Member Silva.
Yes.
And Committee Member St. John.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
I'd like to nominate Greg Simmons for co-chair, please. Vice chair, sorry. Yes. Thank you.
I'll second that nomination.
Maybe we have a roll call.
Absolutely. Vice Chair Gardner, or sorry, Committee Member Gardner.
Yes.
Committee Member Markham.
Yes.
Committee Member Silva.
Yes.
And Committee Member St. John.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yay. Okay. All yours, buddy.
Oh, boy. I get to take over, huh? All right, we will move on to agenda item 5, special announcements. Does anyone on the committee or in the public have a special announcement that they would like to make? We don't have anyone online, do we?
No, we're just in person for these meetings. Yeah.
I have an announcement, just in case anyone was interested in joining us for tomorrow's field trip to Lock Padden Park and Marina State Beach. We will be canceling due to imminent bad weather. We hear is coming tomorrow afternoon or tonight or sometime. So stay tuned. We're looking to reschedule that probably mid to late April.
And what was that tour for?
That was for the local coastal program update.
I have an announcement. I have an announcement that April 12th is Earth Day here in Marina. It's going to be conducted out at Lock Padden Park, put on by citizens of Sustainable Marina and the Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District. And it's from 10 to 2, April 12th.
Thank you for those announcements. If there are no more, we will go to agenda item 6. This is communications from the floor. These are any items that are not on the agenda that any speaker would like to speak to. Do we have any communications from the floor on? Not seeing any, we will move to agenda item 7, ex parte communications. These are disclosure of communications that anyone on the committee has had regarding matters that may come before or have come before the tree committee. Do we have any? I don't. So, hearing none, we'll move to agenda item 8, which is the consent agenda. There are 2 items on our consent agenda. Item A, which is the approval of the May 6, 2024 special meeting minutes. And B, the tree committee meeting minutes from November 13th, 2024. Do we have any discussion on that? Any members in the public? Hearing none. I will motion that we approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. I'll second that.
May we have a vote, please?
Absolutely. Committee member Silva,
Yes.
committee member Gardner,
Yes.
committee member St. John,
Yes.
and Chair Markham.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 9, public hearings. We have one, I believe staff has a presentation on 219 and 21 Hillcrest Avenue. There is a tree removal permit TR 25-001.
Thank you, Chair. So I will be presenting this item tonight. There we go. So this is for a project at 219-221 Hillcrest Avenue, just down the street from these chambers, actually. So this project is a 15-unit housing project, which consists of 3 buildings that they're proposing with 5 units in each building. So that's a total of 15 units. We have the applicant here today and their arborist, Patrick. This lot is located in multifamily residential. So this is a standard use that you would see in this zoning district. And it's also part of our downtown revitalization specific plan, which was just adopted back in December. So this is our first project to come before any committee. So the tree removal request is for 7 trees. The request to remove these 7 trees is due to grading and construction of the housing development. In the arborist report, the arborist found that 3 of the trees are in poor condition. And so staff and the arborist are recommending removal for those 3, as well as 4 trees that are in fair or good condition. And those will be replaced, as stated in the staff report, at a 2-to-1 ratio. So these are the trees. This is in the staff report. I tried to make the numbers a little bit bigger so you can see them, but you can see that there's a cypress tree, 4 different silver wattles, also known as acacia trees, 1 coastal live oak, and 1 myoporum. So 2 of the acacia trees are in poor condition, and the myoporum is in poor condition. And then the other 4 trees are in fair to good condition. The most prominent tree, I'll just note, if you visited the site or walked by it, is the Monterey cypress tree. Originally it was a tri-stem tree, and now it only has 1 trunk remaining. I walked by it this week and noticed that one of the branches is broken off and dying. So it is still quite large, though. It has a DBH of 52 inches, as you can see. So it's a pretty prominent tree. As incorporated into the staff report, this is their proposed site plan showing buildings 1 through 3 and the parking lot, and then as well as all of the different trees and where they're located on the lot. So as you can see, that cypress tree number 556 is in the center of the lot. That will be directly where building number 1 will be. And then you can see how the other trees are either going to be impacted by construction or by grading. I will note at this point that the site is sloping downhill. So there's about a little over 10-foot grade change from the top of the lot to the bottom of the lot. And so they're gonna have to grade the whole lot to make it so it's flat so they can construct the homes. So even if a tree is not directly impacted by a building, it's still gonna be impacted by grading and fill. So when you flatten it out, you do cut and fill to some degree to make it so that the site is level for the buildings. And you can see on the site plan in front of you that there's some steps surrounding building 3, because building 3 is set down from buildings 1 and 2. I also incorporated into the staff report the tree replacement plan. You can see on this plan that they show the 3 lighter colored green trees. Those are strawberry trees is what they recommend. And then they have 5 dwarf southern magnolia trees. I've clarified in my staff report that these should be named little gem magnolia trees because those are listed in our recommended tree list in the downtown vitalization specific plan. They're actually noted in the Marina Tree and Garden Club gave their own list. And so that's why we list this tree specifically. It should be a similarly appropriate tree for the site. Staff did speak to the applicant and mentioned that we are going to require as a condition of approval at least 1 Monterey cypress or 2 coastal live oaks to be included as part of the replacement trees. And this was the thought behind this was that large cypress tree is quite prominent. We want to see something similar that can really be this sort of anchor tree to this site. This project is exempt from CEQA, as noted in the staff report. It's consistent with the city's ordinance, as noted in the findings. And it has the standard conditions of approval, including restricting the time of tree removal to outside of these dates. If it is within the states, of course, then they would need a certified biologist on site to make sure that there's no impacts to nesting birds. And then if there's any trees on the site, that they protect them, and then also that they must display the permit during the tree removal. So these are standard conditions of approval for any tree removal project. I also wanted to note that this is a housing project, and under state law, housing projects are limited to 5 meetings. This meeting currently that we're having is one of those 5. So after this, there's only 4 more meetings that we can have. That includes any appeals to Planning Commission and City Council, and any other meetings that the city requires, such as a community meeting. So staff just notes that this needs to be an efficient decision making for this project based on that state requirement. This is this recommendation from staff in the staff report, and then I'm going to turn it back to the chair for any technical questions and open it up to the public. Oh, did Patrick or Diane, did you want to say anything? No? Okay.
I have a question. I can't see the live oak tree from the street, and I didn't walk onto the property, but it looked to me to be in fairly good condition. You said it's fair under stress. What exactly does that mean?
And if you could turn on the mic right there, thank you.
So yeah, this tree is, Patrick Kraybacher, our project arborist. This tree is stressed. It's showing epicormic stems or branching, as well as some dieback. It's got some limbs that have been cut off I'm not entirely sure who did that. It must have been the homeowner or some sort of historical trimming that was out of ANSI standards, as well as its root zone is all developed. Yeah, and fair, always no, is not a bad thing.
Develop meaning it's above ground?
No, the development goes within the critical root zone all the way around it. There's a deck, there's a paved area. I have no historical knowledge of when and how those were installed. And that's where I assume the stress came from, but I'm only making assumptions there. But like I said, oak trees typically have some sort of dieback as well as that adventitious and epicormic branching. And that's a really easy telltale sign of a stressed oak. Yeah. But like I said, fair isn't bad. Yeah. 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 Anything else? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just a clarification, there were 3 trees that were found to be in poor condition of the 7.
Mhm.
And so the replacement requirement of 2 for 1 does not apply to trees in poor condition. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so then the replacement is 8 trees for the 4 remaining in fair to good.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I'm clear.
Yep.
Just one follow-up.
Sure.
The conditional approval of one, let me get this right. Let's see, or you can refresh me on the conditional approval of 1 Monterey cypress and 2 oaks.
Right. So the proposed replanting plan from the architect had, of the 8 trees, there's 3 strawberry trees and 5 of the magnolia. So staff is recommending that of those 8, at least one of them is a cypress, and or 2 of them are a coastal live oak. So it is within your purview that you could change that somehow if you wanted to in some
I just have
way.
a question to the owner's representative or the owners, if they are in agreement to that A or B condition.
Can you step up to the podium? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You need to state your name.
Diane Coward.
Thank you, Dan.
Regarding the replacement rates at a 2 to 1, is there any conditions or can there be an addition to the condition of the trees that are replaced are alive and healthy in X number of years, 3, 5, 7, something like that? Because what you stated with the excessive grading,
Mhm.
There's a chance that those trees don't have a really good healthy start if we're going to go deep below subsoil. And so it's pretty easy for developer just to like throw a couple of trees in the ground and call it good and walk away from a project. But if we're going to lose some mature trees in good condition, we kind of want to make sure that we get trees back in good condition. Is there any way that the developer can like guarantee the trees that are replaced? And if, in terms of if that on the other happen, though, and they get damaged, they can be replaced in the future to make sure that these trees are there to stay for the new housing development?
Yeah, I can answer that in 2 ways. First way is we do have conditions of approval that state that the trees that are replanted have to be irrigated for 2 years is it's a standard. And then when they are replaced, that they grow up in a natural form and they're not trimmed in an artificial manner. So they're allowed to grow up in a healthy manner. And then when we do standard developments like this, staff always have a condition of approval for the development side of things that any landscaping, not just trees, has to be, once it's finally installed, after they build the homes or the apartments, and they've installed the landscaping, then they would sign up. They would have to sign a surety bond for 2 years, or make a deposit of 10% of the value of the landscaping installed, and then we hold that surety bond or that deposit for 2 years, and then after 2 years, if everything is still alive, then they get that money back, or we release the surety bond, or we say, hey, all of your landscaping is dead. We're going to extend this another year, and then and you have to replant everything, and then we're going to follow up in a year or 2 years. So we insure in 2 ways that happens. And you can ask the arborist what he believes is enough time to make sure these trees are healthy and going to survive on the site. So we found that 2 years is our standard practice, but we could make that 3. I don't think 7 is. I haven't heard of 7, but Patrick is the expert, so I defer to him.
So if you look at Patrick, again, the arborist, if you look at the recommended mitigation measures, I had a 5-year monitoring plan. Yeah. I've seen 3, 5, 10, never seen over 10, but yeah, 3, 5, and 10. So I shot in the middle there. Yeah.
This permit has a 5-year? Does this permit have a 5-year?
It was just one of my recommended
Recommendation.
measures. Yeah, yeah.
And we can add that as a condition of approval, that 5-year monitoring. That's fine. That can be condition of approval number 6.
That'd be great. One more question for you.
Yeah.
The cypress tree, which is prominent but not in the healthiest condition, it's topped off. It's kind of like a cap up there. Planting another cypress in this project, they grow very wide. They do grow, medium fast, but
Mhm.
do you recommend a cypress like this, say in the middle of this courtyard is the only place I could see it? I mean, I don't see that this is a good tree for this project. Do you?
I think it's good in that the area you're planting it, because it's the top of a hill. I think Coast Live Oak would have a harder time. So the species selection is there. The area and the room it has to grow, you could play with the hardscape surfaces to make them more breathable. You could make root barriers. That's a landscape designer's question to answer, but
So more
I-
trimming of the cypress, so it just doesn't look like there's enough room for this.
I'm only
wide-
worried about the roots. Yeah, the trimming, that species is meant to have all of its foliage at the top, so you could slowly prune it to have that. The roots would be the trickiest part.
So
yeah.
you don't recommend oak trees, huh?
Well, you could get away with oaks. I think if you did, I've seen some trees behind the buildings. You need a little bit of shelter.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go fully exposed with
Yeah,
an
they
oak.
need to-
It'll
a bit-
just suffer forever. Yeah. Yeah. But the roots on the oak would be great because they're not that aggressive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So your recommendation would be what?
I would stick to a cypress because it's a great spot for a cypress.
Oh, okay.
I think the engineers and the landscape designers can play with the root barriers and types of surfaces that they implement, but I'm not an engineer, so I can't answer those
Mhm.
questions.
Thank you.
For the cypress, what size of tree would be put in gallonage wise? Yeah, I saw it, but I forgot.
I think they have 15.
15?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is R4 zone? Is that right?
It's part of the new downtown vitalization specific
Okay.
plan, so it's actually multifamily residential,
Okay,
but it's
alright.
pretty similar to R4.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have any further discussion from the committee?
And we do need to go out to the public for,
Yes, I was
yeah,
gonna do that.
perfect.
All right, we'll now open up the floor for public input on this item. Anyone in attendance wish to speak? Hearing none.
Through the chair. If I could just add a clarification, if it is the desire of the whole committee to add that number 6 tree monitoring for 5 years, it would be great to include that in your motion as well as the recommendation for condition of approval number 4 to actually state that you prefer the Monterey cypress and rather than leaving it up to chance. So just remove the option for either or, and then also specify a 15-gallon tree.
If you would be so kind, could you put the recommended motion back on the screen? My iPad is not helping me right now.
Is that legible for you?
Yeah, that's great.
Good. Oh, sorry.
All right, I won't read the whole thing, but I will motion that we approve the staff recommendation with addendum to have a 5-year monitoring period. And then on condition of approval number 4, that the committee prefers a Monterey cypress.
All right.
Be a 15-gallon
Okay. All right. 15.
planting. Open for a second.
I can second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Okay. All right. Member Silva,
Yes.
committee member Jackie Gardner,
Yes.
Chair Markham,
Yes.
committee member Richard St. John.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, we will move on to action items number 10 on the agenda. We have none for today. However, I believe we still open for public comment.
Oh, yeah. You just close the public. You can just close it.
Okay, I will just close public comment since we don't have any items. All right, item number 11, this is an informational item. We don't have any decisions to make today. I believe staff has a presentation for us on Sea Haven replacement trees.
Just a point of order before we get started.
Mhm.
Since this is an informational item, then there is no need for myself to be recused. Since I live in Sea Haven.
That's correct. You're not taking any action as a committee, so you're just receiving information so you may remain on the dais.
Hello, everyone. Good to meet you. I'm Brian Kim, Assistant Planner, and I'm presenting today on the Sea Haven Abrams Drive landscape modification. Next slide, please. As we just talked about, this is an informational item under Marina Municipal Code 1762-040 under general exemptions. So tree replacement within approved landscaping plan does not require a tree removal permit if they are part of a previously approved landscaping plan. So the change is subject to approval by the community director. Next slide, please. So a little background on this project. On September 2004, City Council adopted a resolution approving Marina Height, now known as Sea Haven subdivision. And this guideline included a list of trees and plants for use in the community. On March 2022, the Planning Commission adopted resolution number 2022-04 approving Sea Haven tree and plant palette update. And this plan removed invasive and disease susceptible trees and adding a bunch of trees that were better suited for the climate and conditions of the site. Slide, please. And this is where we get to the application on December 18th, 2024. ISA certified arborist Ian Ashby of Elite Maintenance and Tree Service submitted a root management report proposed with a project for recommendation to remove 50 trees and add 50 strawberry trees. So the original project location is on Abrams Drive between El Capitan and Denali Drive. The map shows the 50 Monterey pine trees originally proposed to be removed and the 50 strawberry trees that were supposed to be replanted adjacent to the Monterey pines. Next slide, please. And after discussing with staff, there were concerns due to the large number of scale and the 50 trees. Also, on January 28th, 2025, Ian Ashby added addendum number 2 and renamed the original report as an arborist report. And this report reduced the number of trees to 43. And after discussion, it also changed strawberry trees to Australian willows. And on March 3rd, 2025, Ian Ashby submitted another revision that reduced the scope to even lower to 5 Monterey pines that were causing the most damage and replacing them with 5 Australian willow. And the recommendation also included that the other 38 trees previously reported were to be removed in the future under a separate submittal. So here's the updated project location. This shows the 2 trees. And in the following map on the next slide has the remaining 3 trees. So a little background on the removal request. And the removal was due to the trees that were causing damage with the underground utilities. The arborist states that the trees have only grown to 25% of their potential size and expects them to damage the road and sidewalk even more in the future. And although the impact roots can be removed now, new roots will continue to grow, causing more damages and expensive repairs. And overall, the size of the trees is not appropriate for the site. As we talked about in 2022, the tree palette and Monterey pines were not included as a street tree. So that was part of the reason. So next slide, please. So here's a comparison of the Monterey pines that are being removed and the Australian willows. So reasons to remove the Monterey pine: risk of subsurface utility damage and sidewalk damage. And there's also potential damage to vehicles parked along the road. And it's very messy with pine cones and overhang. And it's a safety issue. There's also allergies from pollen. And the Australian willows, reasons to add: low risk for root damage. And its appropriate max height of 35 to 45 feet, provides shade and has moderate growing rate, which is good for the street. And it was also part of the plant palette under street tree minor. Next slide, please. So the Monterey pines are approximately 25 feet tall with a diameter breast height of approximately 18 inches. Compared to that, the Australian willow trees are 15-gallon standard trees that are approximately 6 to 8 feet tall with a DBH of 1 to 2 inches. And the arborist recommended the 15-gallon standard due to the difficulty in small planting space and risk of damage to the utilities underground. And as I previously mentioned, the Monterey pines are not part of the 2022 tree palette due to it being susceptible to the diseases and a lot of the reasons mentioned on this slide. And compared to that, the Australian willows are part of the palette. And after notifying 300 feet of the project site, staff received 2 correspondence from these addresses. And next slide. And just to summarize, this is an informational item, so there's no action to be taken tonight. And the original scope was reduced from 50 to 5 trees. And staff has received comments from residents and will take them under consideration prior to approval. And just to let you guys know that the permit has not been signed off yet, and the community development director has the authority to make any changes. So thank you.
Thank you for the report. I believe we go to the committee for clarifying questions, and then we'll go to public comment. So do we have any clarifying questions from the committee?
Is the Willow have a percentage or that you know of about allergies?
Yeah. I'll look into that and then I'll contact you guys.
Had one comment and then one question. Comment on, I'm glad that the substitution for Australian willows was done for strawberry fruit trees, which are overrepresented in Sea Haven, in my opinion. And the question on that is, how wind tolerant are the Australian willows? Because that is a high wind corridor.
I don't think we have that information in our arborist report, but if our resident arborist might want to help us out with that question, since he's sitting in the audience, that would be really great. We always put Patrick on
I
the
know.
spot every time he's in the audience.
I'm not entirely sure about that, but I can look into it and email you guys. Yeah. I can get back to you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, if that works. Okay. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
I'll email Allison or
Perfect.
Thank you.
This will teach Patrick to stay in the audience
Yes.
after his item is done.
Thank you for the free service. We appreciate that.
I have another question. So it looks like whatever tree they decide on, they're going to do all the same trees for this project rather than mixing it up a little bit.
That's correct.
That's why I was asking about allergies when you've got so many of the same ones. Okay.
All right. If there are no further questions from the committee. Oh, we do.
Now, is there a light switch? Because I flipped my,
What are you looking for?
no, for you, we alert the chair if we have questions.
Oh, okay. I'm not.
And there's a light. Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
All right, thank you, Chair. I have just some background to add and then a couple of questions. The background is I am a resident of Sea Haven and also a member of the board of directors for the Sea Haven Homeowners Association. And this item has been on the board's agenda for ever since even before it came to the city. And it started out as a replacement in total for 50 of these Monterey pine. Yeah. And these are relatively young trees, maybe 15 to 20 years old, but they are quite prominent along the this boulevard. You know, they look very nice, and they do have drop copious amounts of pollen when the pine cones pop open, mature. The pine cones are a pretty nice size, kind of like, they can be as large as a pineapple. You know, and they, you might get a couple of hundred per tree of these pine cones. Anyway, the damage, historical damage, maybe started around 2018 or 2019, was maybe the first incident of damage, and it damaged water lines on one or two trees location. And then maybe there is some other damage that was more modern for irrigation tubing. When it came before the board, HOA board, the request was in recommendation was for 50 pine trees, which was pretty much the sum total of pine trees along Abrams Drive from one end to the other. And there were other species of trees that had been planted other than the pine, but the pine was the predominant landscaping along Abrams. And I was very much against the wholesale removal of 50 pine trees that were 18 or 20 inches in diameter at breast height, just because there was one or two or three instances of utility damage. And I saw almost no sidewalk damage and no street damage, but that didn't mean, I'm not an arborist, and that didn't mean that it isn't going to happen in the future. But currently, there wasn't any significant damage to properties other than utilities. And the utility damage, when it occurred, was pretty costly. I thought kind of costly to repair. But the replacement of 50 quite mature pine trees, but not fully mature, but anyway, quite mature pine trees, these things are, yay big. They're a nice size. So the cost to replace them was a big hit to the homeowners association's bank balance. So I encouraged the board to look at other alternatives. And so they did under two or three iterations, which have been reviewed. And so I am quite pleased to go from 50 to 5. And I hope that, in the next 5 or 10 years that we don't have to replace another, if we can keep it down to 4 or 5 trees every 10 years, that's probably a win-win. And so that was my background information for the board, for the committee and for the public. Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes.
Let's see, I had one question. Could you read, if it's not too long, the letters? I think I've read one letter from the homeowners. If you have those, can you read those so that we know what the adjacent homeowners were thinking?
I can summarize them. I have them in my packet.
Also, I think one set of adjacent homeowners is in the audience waiting to provide comment.
Correct. Do you want to wait till after they give comment and then we can read whichever one's left? Okay.
Name is Roman Perry, and
It's,
It's,
Oh.
it's on.
good.
Oh,
Oh, you
press
just
it
turned
again.
it off. There you
Just-
go.
Yeah.
That's good.
was already, hello. Okay, name is Roman Perry. I'm at corner of Braden and Abrams. And we have pine cones that are so huge that they're clusters. And I have photos of them, and you just can't believe what happens when they fall. We have all of our yard is covered with this stuff that comes from the trees. It's all yellow and it's everything. And I'll clean my barbecue. Tomorrow I have to clean it again. These trees are emitting all this stuff. It's horrendous. In the rain, it's all over between the sidewalks. You can see it in all the crevices, yellow. That's ridiculous. The pine needles, if people are walking, and there's a lot of pine needles on Abrams, they walk along there, they're trying to do baby carriages and all this stuff. And, you know, if I don't go out and blow these things, they're going to walk over them. They're sticky. They get on your feet, your shoes. You can't go barefooted. There's branches now that are hanging way over our property and dropping all of this stuff on our property, and all along, and the person behind us, the same thing, the two of us on that one block. I want those things out personally. I was hoping the 5 trees that they were going to talk about were going to be our 5 trees, but it doesn't sound like there are 5 trees. And another thing, if you're going to start picking trees out here and there and putting a different kind of tree here and there and around in between all of these other pine trees, they're not going to get any sun, for one thing, because these pine trees are blocking all the sun from Abrams. Also, very concerned about fire danger that these trees have. If somebody has a car fire, anything like that, along Abrams, catches any of these trees on fire, with the onshore wind, it's going to clear out Abrams. My house, our house is right there. We're 10 feet away from these, and they're actually, I have photos, they actually come over, way over, like 10 feet over in our property. Not the last storm, the one before, one of those branches got heavy enough that it cracked down. So I had to get my ladder out. Well, I got a guy across the street who was doing some work. He came over and helped me. I had to cut the branch off because it was dangling. Try to get the HOA to do it. Well, we know that's going to take a month. And this was just couldn't wait.
So just for the chairs, we're at 3 minutes, just so you know. So yeah, public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Let me give you my card though, and you can please email me or call me, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your comments. Would you care to read or summarize the correspondence we've
Yeah,
received?
so it sounds like he's not one of the 2 that emailed. So the
They
first,
are in your packet as
they
well.
are in the packet as well, and I emailed them to the tree committee. So more or less, they both, as Brian mentioned, the 2 addresses, they both, the first one mentions that they've caused damage to underground utilities and they're hoping to be included in the trees that are removed, is what Christine Allen emailed. And then the other email provides photos of damage, and they're saying that the trees between 3011 and 3009 Abrams has caused 2 leaks, and that they hope that those are also removed. So it's in the line of they live there and they want the trees in front of their house removed as well. So staff will look at these emails and review this public comment and discuss as staff and discuss with the HOA and make a final call as staff.
Okay, any further questions or comments from the committee before we close this item? All right, we will close public comment and close this agenda item. Moving on to agenda item 12A, I would like to motion that we defer this agenda item until Co-Chair Simmons can be present. He participated in some of the background research that was done on the tree ordinance comparison, and it would be appropriate, I believe, that he be present. So I would like to make that motion that we defer this agenda item until our next meeting.
I second it.
I don't believe we need to do a roll call on this one. So
I think you can just all say aye if you want to say
any
it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Okay, this agenda item will be deferred into our next meeting. Agenda item 13, correspondence, I believe we have none. Is that correct? It would note on the previous agenda item 11A, the correspondence is now part of the agenda packet. So if anybody wants to read them, they are available online if you wish to see them. So we will close item 13, correspondence, and I move for adjournment of this meeting. Do I have a second? I think we just do.
You.
All right, we are officially adjourned
All
as
right.
of 6:24. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for public for
Thank you, new chair.